Welcome to the Peace is Possible podcast, a space for real talk on healing, leadership, and conscious change. I'm Eva Dalak, founder of Peace Activation and your host. Each episode brings you insights and tools to help you live and lead from a place of inner peace and ripple that peace outward. Tune in, reflect, activate. Subscribe whenever you listen to podcasts and visit peaceactivation.org to learn more.
Marhaba Aida. I'm so happy to welcome you to the Peace is Possible podcast.
Shukran, Habibti. Thank you for creating possibilities. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And as I shared when I invited you to this podcast, for me, Peace is Possible podcast is really bringing a unheard maybe perspective and various perspective into wider audience. So I'm inviting you really to share who you are, what's your background. I always felt like it's a bit awkward when someone speak about me in front of me and presenting me. So I prefer to allow people to know you in your own words. So who are you, Aida?
Wow. I can start by saying I am in the long path and process to get to know who I am beyond all the identities that I was born into. But in this lifetime, my body was born right next to Jabal al-Tur in the north side of occupied Palestine. The nearest river to me, Wadi al-Sharrar, that goes to Wadi al-Bira, that goes to Nahr al-Urdun, Jordan River. The closest lake is Tabariya, Gennesaret, Tiberias, one of the oldest sites and sacred sites. And the nearest ocean is, or sea, is Haifa, that's connected with Gaza, the Mediterranean, where our longing have a harbor. And my name is Aida, and the daughter of Aisha, Fatima, bint Shahba, bint Watfa, bint Amsha, bint Khaldiya, bint Khadija. And these are my ancestors who have been all, as much as I know, Bedouins, nomads, the indigenous people of Palestine, who have been living and wandering in the same location for around 4,000 years. And up till 80 years ago, they would be living in the same location and herding and living. And since the establishment of what is called the State of Israel, they were forbidden to continue their lifestyle and became forced to settle in one location, which brought a break of the lineage and a break of the lifestyle of my indigenous people. And being born to this heritage and this legacy of people who always knew how to learn, to smell land, how to read land, how to read the map of life and the map of nature, I became very early activist. I was arrested in the age of 16. And recently I said in one of the conferences that I was sitting with other Palestinians, and I said I was arrested for one night, and I continued speaking a very high resistant speech, and my Palestinian friend said, yeah, for now, one night. And it brought me this reminder that, yeah, with every voice that we are raising, we are subjected and possible to be arrested and jailed and whatever is happening. The most heavy things that are happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, it also reaches us. So I became an activist, and my activism is kind of activism that connects the dots between why do we look down to indigenous people? Why do we look up to white modernity? And how resisting and bringing white modernity with capitalism, with colonialism, with all the ism that it brings is actually the main foundation of the political situation that we live in. So I went through feminism, radical feminism, spiritual ecology, and I teach love. I teach love schools in the world, love as a basics for political change. And my activism is of a sacred activism that brings prayer in the middle, a space where we connect with our divine essence and from there speak a prayer, from there initiate an action. And I want to tell you that today my tears are jumping in front of my words. I am accompanying a dear friend from Gaza that her father was shot yesterday and went through surgeries and died this morning. And she's a dear friend, Neen, whom many of us know her. So on top of the 64,000 people killed in Gaza, when you know a story of a certain person and accompany this person. Since Haneen came here to where I live, I accompanied her and her family and got to know her father. So the genocide have a face, and it's sitting in my throat today. It's yeah, happy to talk to you, happy to talk about peace is possible. And right now my tears are the leading energy.
Thank you, Aida. Thank you for your tears and your words. And it is in times like this that believing and even saying peace is possible is very triggering. It's in times of this where we want to like just scream and cry out loud that no, peace is not possible. There's no way that we will have peace, and revenge is the only answer. And that's why in such a time it's so potent when I have this conversation with friends. Yeah, how can we actually still keep this vision of peace possible? I'm also having a moment of emotion because I also know Haneen. I didn't know that her dad just died. Have a lot of emotions around that, and it's true. Like once you have a face on the people that died, and not just the number, and not just like it's happening somewhere there. And I personally have family there that died at the beginning of the genocide already 2 years ago, and when my mom shared, yeah, my family died, the whole building just like collapsed on the whole family tribe. And just like take a breath in that moment is so hard. It's so challenging. Just listening to this news and feeling them in the body, feeling the trauma reactivated in the body. And in that inhale, in the space between the inhale and the exhale, say, is there still space for peace? Is there still space for activism, or what I call to activate peace? Can I still activate peace inside out? Can I still sit in this sorrow, in the grief? And you and I shared a dear moment together, like in a ritual on grief. And I hold that memory deep in my heart, because the trauma and the body, as they say, the body keeps the score. The trauma is living in our body in every single, even whether we're there in Gaza right now or outside, witnessing it, not witnessing, hearing about it, etc. We're all activated. We're all activated with these triggers and this trauma. And so in this context, how or what would be the path to peace? How can we make peace possible? And I love that you're teaching love. And I think that's where I met you the first time, in Tamera. And in a sacred activism, I think Tamera represents for me one of the most beautiful projects of how to bring spirituality and political activism together, because most of the time they're dissociated and separated. And that's where I said, oh yeah, that's sacred activism. So can you say more about that?
I think what is most humbling me in these times is that I pose whenever there's a question, from saying the usual thing, which is, I think the way toward this and this. I think we should obviously we are in a collective polycrisis. We are in a crisis of our activism itself in a crisis. And maybe what I want to point to the crisis and to the need of pausing and relaxing into the not knowing is that I believe that in humbling ourselves to say, I don't know what is the way out. I don't know what to suggest and offer. And by this, I allow also spirit to act through me, to use me in a way to whisper to my ears what could be possible beyond the human way of thinking and rationalizing things. one pathway that I see it, it's that we need to redefine what do we mean by peace. You see, I lived in what is called Israel. I lived among Jewish Israeli people. And now I understand that the majority of the people that I lived among were Zionists. And back then, there was this grace inside of me that I saw in them Israelis or Jewish. Now I'm understanding how blindly Zionist they were, and they believed in peace, but they believed in peace where there is coexistence. They would be the upper hand, having the resources, robbing our lands, robbing our bodies, and speaking about peace and love, and we shall accept where we are and keep the peace. And so peace it started being equated by being calm and being silent when in the face of injustice, and in the face where your body that keeps the score sees and feels that there is something wrong. You don't know how to name it, but there's something wrong, and because of somebody defining for you what is peace, you try to follow that definition, but your body says, no, there's something wrong. So for me, I don't think that there could be peace. And I'm not looking for peace. I'm looking for justice. I'm looking for decolonization. I'm looking for reevaluating our contact with life. I'm looking for a space where I'm discovering my roots and supporting you, whoever you are, to find your roots and your branches. I'm looking for a space where female bodies are not in fear all the time, where people of color can celebrate their rituals. And if all of this is called in the end peace, then okay, then I am peace. But I want that we define what do we mean by peace. And peace is activating life energies. Life energies are not about peace and harmony and the way we like to call it, or how white modernity would like to call it. Shh, peace and love and quiet. Actually, being life energies being activated, there's conflict. There is things emerging, but there's conflict while keeping the space where your respect, your dignity, your safety is guaranteed. But there's conflict. If we both live together with all our amazing qualities, we will have conflicts, and that's okay. The white modernity made us get used or trained us for conflict avoidance, and this conflict avoidance leads us to this space that the majority, there's a huge majority that is in silent toward the genocide that is happening, and people afraid to take side. And while I'm not calling for anybody to take side for Israelis or Palestinians, I'm calling people to take a stance for life and for love and light. And then love and light will show you sometimes the right is with the Israelis, sometimes against them. So we are not used to live our life energies fully, and then discover what is the togetherness despite divergences. We don't need to bring things in harmony too early. Yeah, and that's if all of this is called peace, then peace is possible, and it needs a lot of work.
Yes, thank you, Aida. You speak my heart and my mind, because for me, there's a couple of things that you said that I want to go back to. I remember when I first came back from France after studying international relation, and I've done a training at UNESCO under the Israeli embassy, under the Israeli embassy in Paris recommendation, and they invited me to Israel, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I still remember I was like 22 or 23, and they're like, oh, we would like to offer you to be part of our ministry. And of course, as an Arab, you will not get to the high rank, like this is obvious, but you would have the opportunity to work with us, and you will be our Arab. Coming back from like 4 years of working on human rights and all the international law and understanding this from a different perspective, from the outside of Israel rather than inside of Israel, because I feel like the occupation in the West Bank and Gaza is clear cut. We see the occupation. But I've always felt like the occupation of our mind, those of us who stayed in the state of Israel, what we call Arab 1948 or Arab Israeli. I don't think that we have ever, we're still in the process of, but comprehending the level of occupation of the mind and self-censorship, that yes, it's normal that you would be a second-class citizen and you shouldn't aspire for anything else. And you're actually lucky to be offered something like that. Needless to say, I didn't accept the offer and left out of Israel and never came back. But this also point to the apartheid, but also at the same time offer this perspective of us that have grown up there and worked with this peace camp, peace child, and Arab Israeli coexistence and all the coexistence project and all what the Oslo Accord have like laid out. I think it has brought up the betrayal that we feel when we mention the word peace. Peace has lost its sacredness. And I love that in what you shared, you actually brought back what does it truly mean, peace? Not harmony, not calm. We might eventually get there, but that's not the process. Is going to be, might be messy, chaotic, but we will have the trust that we are going to work our process. And conflict avoidance has been equated with peace. And that's what Peace is Possible wants to break. This podcast is really about like, no, peace is possible because we are going to be activated. We want to activate peace. And how do you activate peace? Well, you activate peace by talking about all these differences, by dealing with the triggers, by taking responsibility for the triggers and being really honest about where you are standing with your privilege, with where you are speaking about peace, what type of privilege you have to speak about peace, but also what type of blindness you have taken for normal.
Yeah.
And that's really the key. And so within that context, I know that we've been working a lot also with Israelis and Jewish and Palestinian and Arab and international. I mean, like there's like a huge movement right now on the sea that is getting to break the siege of Gaza, hopefully, inshallah. Do you want to say more about that and how this entered how would peace be possible in such a context?
Yeah. What you just mentioned of this place of some people got used that they can speak about peace and love and togetherness while keeping their privilege, not understanding that if you really want to make peace, then you have to speak about, for example, land back. Just before the genocide started, I was preparing to go out with a campaign, very well prepared, that it will be sent to all my Israeli friends that I thought back then that they are friends and partners for activating peace. And I suggested for them something that is called land back, which is taken from First Nations struggles in Turtle Island, where it could have led to a place in my in my optimal scenarios, that these peace activists, Israelis and Jewish people who sit on tons of privilege, will come really to this place of saying land back, and out of me, like as a person who is Israeli and owning a house, I would evacuate that house and offer it to a Palestinian and say, yeah, that's justice. Right now, I think we are at least a decade far away from suggesting or speaking about land back, but peace will not go through and will not happen unless we will be speaking thoroughly about using all the resources, re-equilibrating all the resources that we have, and that the flow of resources will be according to needs, according to rights and historic rights, and not according to privilege. Unfortunately, we are very far away from this. You spoke about the flotilla that and many people who are breaking the siege to in Gaza, inshallah, and I put this talk now about peace and activating peace into the prayer, that the waves of the Mediterranean carry them with softness and with grace, and that the most grace and light that I'm wishing for them, for breaking the siege on Gaza and bringing this much of humanitarian aid, I pray for huge waves of grace to wash all the Israelis and all the Jewish, and wash their hearts so it can open again. Because the amount of hearts that are blocked in Israelis, in Jewish people right now is really unbelievable. And I pray for them that a wave, a water, a wind, the hand of God, the hand of the goddess can open these chests and these hearts, break up, break for light, break for love. Because in my prophecy, with all the pain that I'm going through, and with all the devastation, and with all the system analysis that I can bring you or speak about or not speak about, there is a secret inside of me, or there's a vision inside of me that I saw it maybe 30 years ago, and I still believe in it, that the main transformation and the main effect that will activate peace and will bring an end for this genocide and this conflict and this war is when the original Jewish soul awakened to its source. This vision had been given to me 30 years ago, and I still believe in it. I believe that the original Jewish soul is right now in a huge crisis. For sure, we Palestinians are in the huge crisis. We are the victims. We are the ones who've been genocides, and we are the ones who are resisting, and the ones who are counting the pain. And we are doing what we need to do, and we will keep spreading love and light and resistance. But the major shift will come when the original Jewish soul wakes up. What have we done? What have we done? How did we allow it to be manipulated, that our trauma is manipulated? How did we allow it? And here, just like nature, once you wake up to what's needed to be done, there is forgiveness. Nature, Mother Earth, does not keep the score and says, and hits you. There's no revenge. You walk, in Islam we say, you walk one step toward God, and God will run toward you with 100 steps. And so I replace God with nature. I replace God with goddess. I replace God with God when I want. All of what I can feel as a divine for me, and each one who's listening can put in under that whatever you want, but knowing that every step that we do, the divine word, the natural word, is doing 100 steps toward us. And that's a big promise. That's a big promise. I think my main challenge these days is to keep remembering the medicine that I carry, and to keep having a certain energy every day, a ritual for directing for my heart, so my heart doesn't close in front of all this pain, all of this devastation, all of the news, that I don't close my heart and become just like one of them. That's the biggest challenge that I feel, that the biggest work, and that my share of making peace in the world at this moment is to keep my heart open.
Thank you, Aida. Taking it in a pause, in a breath. And I think that's really, you gave a beautiful definition of what is activating peace inside out. Many people misunderstand it as just being peaceful and calm and sitting in meditation all day long. And I say, no, it's actually, your heart is going to be broken to pieces, and you will mend them, and you will bring a breath that would allow you to keep on trusting and doing the work that needs to be done outside. The invitation of peace activation is not necessarily for us to all sit in meditation, even if it's part of it, but it's actually to understand that in the midst of chaos and crisis and trigger, I am going to be able to hold myself and hold space for you, that think differently, And I have this saying here in front of me to remember that I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. And I know how I serve. And I feel like this is for each one of us. We are one truth. And I often say that oneness is not sameness. It's not that we're all the same, but still we are all one. And we each have a piece to that piece. And once we understand that and we stop judging and fighting the other because their ways are different, and understanding that we're all going to the same direction, which is the ocean of love. And I really love this image of the wave of the Mediterranean washing over the hearts of the Israelis and the Zionists in Israel, because there's many hearts that have been broken, many that I know, many that you know, many Jewish that are actually side by side with us Palestinian, like that are present and understand the core issue. And still it's not enough, because the extremists that are, the fascists that are in the government are working in full impunity. And they're working in full impunity because they have some support also from the outside country, from
yes, from the outside country, but I don't want to play just victim and soft on Israelis that voted for these governments repeatedly. And right now, the polls still says that the majority of Israelis still accept the genocide. And if they want to end the war, it is because they want to get out the hostages and not about Gaza. So actually, my call for Israelis and Jewish, which I love some of them and I honor the original spirit of them, is actually right now during the genocide. If I would be a Jewish Israeli living in that country, out of my will and out of my privilege and out of my capacities, I will leave that land, me and my family and my resources, and I will leave the land. It's not a transfer. It's not that I'm pushing them to leave, but I, as an Israeli Jewish, I would leave that country.
And many of them left. Many.
Yeah, but we need we need a critical mass of at least 2-3 millions. It's not about 2-3,000, but of all these people who says, I want actually the war to end and I want to leave that country as long as there is genocide, and by this to create a biggest pressure and fight the genocide from the outside. As long as they are there, while I'm still holding that there will be always a minority that will dismantle the empire from inside. In times of genocide like this, I would love them all to leave and demonstrate their power, saying, I am not complicit with this. I go out. And the powers from outside, let us remember that while we are putting the lights on Israel and the government of Israel, I really invite people to enlarge the analysis on that Israel and the government of Israel is an axis of a greater system that is wants that system, that what is called the American military base called Israel to continue. And it is to continue because there are so many benefactors from war, benefactors from genocide. And it's a military base for capitalism, for colonialism in its shape. And let's also remember, Israel was supported to balance and block a movement that was back in the 60s and in the 50s, which is Pan-Arabism and Pan-Africanism. And these two movements were about the pride of being Arab, the pride of being African, and standing up for your identity. And the Western white coloniality wanted to block that, and Israel was used. So like we can see that Jewish people are misused to become soldiers for somebody else battle. It's not for great Israel. It's not for a home for Jewish people. It's the battle of capitalism, and that battle is built on racism. And so if anybody in the Western world is still holding any ideology of race, of hierarchy, of somebody white over people of color or whatever, higher and lower, that racism, that white supremacy is the fuel of this genocide. Another thing is that as long as you are living a life of separation, where your lifestyle, what do you consume, what do you eat, is benefiting from having a world trade movement that has to go through Israel, and a weapon that has to go through Israel, and products that are supported by white coloniality, then your lifestyle is part of that fuel of the genocide. So not to make Israel only the acts of the evil and put the things on Jewish people and Israelis. No, there are many elements that are fueling this genocide.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to go back to, you mentioned pan-Arabism. One question that we have a lot, I'm sure also the listener, but also myself and other people I speak with, like, where are these Arab nations? Like, we're speaking about the Israeli axis and the American, but like, if Palestine is part of all these Arab nations, where are they in the complicity with this genocide?
Yeah, I mean, with the Arab countries, exactly like with the European countries, for the sanity of my heart and keep believing, I need always to remind myself to differentiate between people and elites that are governing them. And we know exactly how the Arab Spring in 2011, how it was misused immediately to suppress the notion of revolution in the Arab world, and how it was rejected in Tunisia, in Egypt, in many places, also in Gaza. It was in Gaza in a different way, not part of the same what I'm saying, but it was wanted not to give sprout the Arab Spring to become immediately to an autumn and a long frozen winter, and it was abducted by the elites, by the governments of these nations. And still we remember that the nations, the people, went to the streets. Also, when you look now what's happening in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Maghreb, Libya, in many places, if the people are allowed, they go to the streets and they demonstrate and they send help, and they are very active for Palestine. But there's an elite that it's hired by that system and oppressing them. Same with the European nations now, that the speech, the liberty of speech, freedom of speech in what is called North America and Europe is allowed a little bit more, but till the level that does not challenge the policies of Germany, of Hungary, of many countries. I mean, the only state that where we see the people are aligned with the government is Spain, and it's beautiful. You see an example of humanity, of people and the governments standing in Ireland a little bit. So for our hearts not to break, this question of where are the Arabs, and we almost like have a half smile, which also, when it's spoken by white people, it wants to remind you that your people are not good enough. And I'm very careful with that, because it shows that we are not understanding what's happening as a system. No, there are elites that are suppressing the people, and the people are with Palestine. Nevertheless, it's a big failure, absolutely big failure. What I'm seeing now with the whole topic of Palestine, that with the change of the narrative, there are many people who are becoming Palestinians, and they don't need to be Arabs. And that's beautiful. More and more people, especially GZ and the new generations, understanding that what's happening in Palestine is not about Palestine. It's not about Gaza only. It's about a new whole world is going to open or fail down if that battle won't be won. I still believe that it will be won.
Thank you, Aida. Yes, I think that I always said that from the beginning, that what's happening in Gaza and people are riding the wave of Gaza is not about Gaza. It's really about consciousness, moving to a whole new level of consciousness. And when we speak about humanity will prevail, it's not going to prevail outside of us. Humanity will only prevail if we stand up for our own humanity. And it's not by dehumanizing the other that I will keep my humanity. On the contrary, while I dehumanize the other, I lose my humanity. And so for me, I've been when I founded Peace Activation, it was really to hold that field in between right doing and wrongdoing, as Rumi says, and to hold that field of humanity. And in this field of humanity is everybody's welcomed, whether regardless of which identity we carry, but with this understanding that we need to clean the field from blame, shame, and guilt. The field is contaminated, and the only way that we can pierce through for humanity to prevail is to understand this as a system of oppression. Understand this as something that is not depending upon one person or two person. It's not just the Bibi or the Hamas or the Trump. There's a whole system behind that is supporting.
Not like just now that you put Bibi and Trump and Hamas as one, I refuse it. Just like for my heart. I wouldn't put these at the same place. I'm sorry.
Okay. The way I wanted to put them as notions, as thinking of like, if we're from one side, if we're battling Hamas, if we win over Hamas, then we will have peace from the Israeli side, that the issue is Hamas, or to have it the issue is Bibi or the issue is Trump. It's in that sense that there's one thing that is an issue. It's not one thing or one person or one group that is an issue. The issue is beyond, is a system that might be actually collaborating together to create this distress, to create this chaos, to create this crisis, so that the people are not understanding that they're being manipulated to hate each other.
Exactly.
And that's what I mean when I say the field is contaminated, is like suddenly we have two sides fighting each other. We have this person to blame and this group to blame. And it's not about this who to blame. It's actually to understand that we are being manipulated and programmed within a matrix, within a system of oppression, within a whole structure that we need to break. That if we are to prevail, we need to create a whole new way of doing things, a whole new way of being, a whole new way of co-creating together beyond our identities, and not in a field of blaming and shaming and guilt. And I think that for me, you mentioned forgiveness earlier on. For me, it's compassionate self-forgiveness for the error, even the error that we have done as human, beyond anything else, as human, to what we have done to ourselves, to the other, to nature, and how disconnected we have been. We have been growing into this separation and disconnection. So really coming back to the divine is coming back to ourselves, because the divine is inside. And coming back to a way, or creating a new old way of being with nature, because we've been there. It's not something new that we need to create. It's really who were we and what were we before there were these states and nations and identities? How were we living? You were speaking in the beginning about all the lineage, the beautiful female lineage that you mentioned, and how they were living as nomad or as Bedouin within a certain place, and they would still probably be living there. And so where this connection to nature, where did we lose it? And how can we go back there? And we didn't lose it only in 1948 because the Israeli state was created. We lost it even before that. So I know that you also hold and you share that about this type of ritual and this type of connection to the land, and this type of this way of being that is really immersed as the feminine wisdom, to which that really speaks to me. And I wonder if you I would love to close that on with the peace is possible. It's like peace, I feel peace is possible when the feminine wisdom is integrated and in a whole different way of doing things, even in this process.
Indeed. One of the topics that I teach, besides sacred activism and the topic of love, I teach the whole topic of re-indigenizing as a political act. It's an invitation to discover what are our each tribe, each group, what is your original ways of being with land, being one with land. I offer these workshops online and also on site here in Tamera and in other places, where I teach especially white people how to regain their own rituals and practices from their own lineages. And it is based on my own experience as being born as an indigenous person, and went through many years where I was disconnected from my ways of being indigenous, and coming back to it while understanding, and also sitting in rituals with people who initiated Standing Rock and many other spaces of prayer and activism. And my understanding is that when we are rooted with who we are and what we are, if we are not rooted, most likely we will uproot others. So you can see that the notion of colonialism came from people who were abducted in Europe, and their ties with community and with land was severed in a very harsh way. And then they were fueled by a system to become foot soldiers for the plantations in North America and Africa. So these were the people who, just prior to that, have been land-based communities. And so colonialism brought to us all this wave that we are living in, which is the case of Palestine, is a pure colonialism, the last station of active colonialism that is happening in the world. So it brought it to us by cutting communities, and my teaching is to go back to be based on with land and creating new contract with land. My belief that when we are here to create peace with land and not on earth, with earth, and there are so many ways that our needs will be nourished and satisfied and answered by nature itself when we tune ourselves to a culture that to be based on needs and not wants. To what you said earlier, to step out of a culture of shame and blame, well, I think, in earlier ways of living, there will be shame and blame until the person will rise up to responsibility. Because the foundation of colonialism, of white coloniality, is individualism, and we are in times of hyper individualism where it's me and my trauma, me and my yoga mat, me and my neighbor, and me. Verse in indigenous cultures, the foundation is accountability. Accountability means that I know that every thought, act, and inact that I do or not do has an influence on you, and not only on you, it has an influence on the resources that should be in commune: the water, the land, the air, the plant, everything. So when we don't have systems of accountability, we are diluted, we are divided, we are not in unity. So there would be a space where actually we would need to go to holding responsibility and accountability, and maybe it will feels like shame and blame until we wake up to our size and act in responsibility. And these are things that we learn in re-indigenizing ourselves, because living in a tribe, there will be a system of accountability. You know, in my people, Bedouins, when somebody violates the commune and the common resources again and again and again, this person is the punishment is called Rahin Shamsak, means I will let you to the sun. You don't have anymore the shade of your people. You're out on your own to the sun. And as Bedouins, you know that you cannot survive under the sun. Now, it sounds very harsh. Oh my God, in our time of like sensitivity and sensitive borders and oh me and my trauma and I'm triggered, this sounds very harsh. You sentence somebody to die in the desert. Yeah, you need to remember that right next to this huge punishment, the Bedouin culture also has this ritual of 3 days welcoming the stranger, not asking him, who are you? What are you? What have you done? Only after the 3rd night you ask, what have you done? How can we serve you to come back to life? So this is a system of accountability. We are in times of greed, extreme greed. It cannot be left to sweet actions and big titles. We are in times of we need to act, and act in a very clear way, as if it would be life or death, because it is about life and death.
Beautiful, Aida. I love the reframe that you put to this, because what you're speaking to is the system of interdependence. And the fact that we are interdependent, the me with the we know that me depend on the we and the we depend on the me. And there's no way that we can be separate. And I think what this individualization and taking care of our own navel have created is a system of separation and de-responsibility and de-accountability. And I think that the three words of, I even wrote them down, of like responsibility, accountability, meaning interdependence, are at the heart of it. I think as individuals, we are now maturing. I feel like even as humanity, what's happening right now in Gaza is offering humanity the opportunity to mature and take responsibility and be accountable for its own action. And its own action not only since 1948, its own action for centuries and centuries of genocide. That's why when I refer to what has there been before, how did we disconnect from nature and our own nature? And how did we create this system of oppressions that are dehumanizing us and the other? And I think that this beautiful example of the 3 days of generosity and welcoming, I remember a friend in Bethlehem, Wael, saying, we gave them an extra day. That's why we are living this. And and it's true, we said it ironically, but in a way, it's like we were too generous with the 3 days of welcoming, the indigenous way of generosity, of like, welcome to the stranger. And then the fourth extra day was extra, and is the responsibility, what we have, how the way we've been betraying ourselves and our own tradition, and also how others have used the word greed right now is really, I would say, is a symptom of all that we're living right now. And it's not just greed of land, greed on everything. We want more and more and more, and there's never enough. And I feel like this understanding that there's enough for everybody. There is enough.
Exactly. That's what Gandhi said. Mother Earth has all what we want, for our needs, not for our greed. He said it very clear. And the father of nonviolence that we quote again and again, he spoke about need and greed, and to accept that the human nature can go from this place to this side, and only as an individual you cannot bring yourself back to the track of life. You need a group of people around you. Only a witnessed consciousness is consciousness, because you can sit under the tree or on your yoga mat and believe that you already transcended everything. Yeah, but you need to live with others. You need to share resources, and then you know if you transcended something or not. And you are speaking about the world is maturing, and I always say growth is painful. I mean, for some of us who are mothers, when we accompany children and the bones are stretching, it's painful, and we tell them it's the pain of growth. And I believe that we are in these times collectively, more and more people are opening to the injustice and the pain of Palestinians. And there is something with all this pain that we are going through. There is something in me, like living here in my community in Tamera. I feel that the burden that I've been lifting alone now is more and more people are sharing, lifting the burden. And the sadness and the pain is the same. And still there is the togetherness. So tomorrow I will go and open a traditional Beit Aza, 3 days of grief for Hanin. And so many internationals already wrote me, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. So we sit with her. And even in the diaspora, we sit together and we hold grief together. And that's the sense of togetherness. And I feel that the main message in these times is that whatever the genocide wants you to be the opposite. It wants you to be sad, broken, despaired. Be consciously happy. Be consciously with life. Take consciously the vow for life and living gratitude in every moment, because they will not break us. They will not break our spirit.
With this beautiful message, Aida, thank you. Thank you so much for your words, for your wisdom, for being an amazing peace activator. Thank you.
Shukran, Habibti.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, for feeling, and for holding space with us. If this episode moved you, please support the Peace is Possible podcast by subscribing, sharing it with friends, or posting it online. Every ripple counts. We'll be back next month with another conversation that dives deep into what it truly means to activate peace within and around us. To support the vision behind Peace Activation, visit peaceactivation.org and follow along on social media. You'll find both Peace Activation and me, Eva Dalak, across all platforms. Until next time, may you meet yourself and others with peace.